and welcome all to Movie Hunter, the show that tracks down the quality of all sorts of movies. My name is Hunter, and today in the 13th episode, our target is Finding Nemo, produced by Pixar Animation Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, at the time known as Buena Vista Pictures Distribution. Finding Nemo began pre-production in 1997 when the director, Andrew Stanton, started writing the screenplay during the post-production of A Bug's Life, which resulted in Finding Nemo beginning production with a completed screenplay. To help capture the look of the ocean, many of the artists behind the scenes took scuba diving lessons, got crash courses in fish biology and oceanology, went diving in Hawaii, visited aquariums, and received in-house lectures from an ichthyologist, someone who studies the biology of fish. The film would release on May 30th, 2003, interestingly enough being the first Pixar movie to not release in the month of November. The film was also the first Pixar film to not be composed by Randy Newman, but instead his cousin, Thomas Newman, who would go on to compose its sequel, Finding Dory, as well as WALL-E and Elemental. Finding Nemo became Pixar's fifth film after 2001's Monsters, Inc. and before 2004's The Incredibles. As mentioned, it was directed by Andrew Stanton, who would also direct WALL-E. The screenplay was also by Andrew Stanton, as well as Bob Peterson, David Reynolds. The story was by Andrew Stanton and was produced by Graham Walters. The cinematography was by Sharon Callahan and Jeremy Lasky. The editing was by David Ian Salter, and the music was by Thomas Newman. The cast includes Albert Brooks, Ellen DeGeneres, Alexander Gold, Willem Dafoe, Brad Garrett, Allison Janney, Stephen Root, Austin Pendleton, Vicki Lewis, Joe Ranft, Jeffrey Rush, Andrew Stanton, Nicholas Bird, Bob Peterson, Barry Humphries, Eric Bana, Bruce Spence, Elizabeth Perkins, John Ratzenberger, Bill Hunter, and Lulu Ebeling. The film made an astounding $940.3 million on a budget of $94 million, becoming the second highest grossing film of the year, behind Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, and became the highest grossing animated film of all time at the time of its release. On top of that, Finding Nemo holds the record for the most sold DVD of all time, with over 40 million copies sold, and, unless DVDs rise in popularity like they did in their peak, Finding Nemo is likely to hold that record forever. Needless to say, the film did just as well critically as it did financially, and became another beloved Pixar movie, helping solidify Pixar as a company with a sort of seal of quality placed on their films. The film was nominated for 68 awards, of which it won 35 of. The film has since received theme parks and video games, as well as a sequel in 2016 called Finding Dory. One unfortunate side effect of the film is that it caused the purchase of clownfish to accelerate considerably, which are notoriously tricky and expensive to maintain. Luckily, research suggests that these unfortunate negative impacts largely ceased after about a year and a half of the film's release. The film later became dedicated to Glenn McQueen, who unfortunately died in October of 2002. He was an animator for Toy Story and a supervising animator for A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, and Monsters, Inc., as well as having the film dedicated to him. Pixar's seventh movie, Cars, would have the main character named after him, being named Lightning McQueen, and in 2009, Pixar opened up a new studio, which would be called the Glenn McQueen Pixar Animation Center, and focused on producing shorts based on their existing characters from Toy Story and Cars. Finding Nemo opens on two clownfish named Marlin and Coral, who recently moved into an anemone in the Great Barrier Reef, and are anxiously awaiting the hatching of their eggs. Unfortunately, a barracuda comes by, knocking out Marlin. When he awakes, he finds that Coral and all but one of the eggs have been eaten, and he names the child Nemo and dedicates himself to keeping him safe. The film then jumps a number of years, and we find Nemo getting ready for his first day of school, with Marlin being overly protective of him and extremely nervous for him. Nemo goes with his class on a field trip where he and a few other fish stray from the group and encounter a boat, which they challenge each other to see who will go the closest to it, though Nemo doesn't participate. Marlin, in a panic, follows his class and sees what is happening and assumes that Nemo is going to the boat as well, causing him to get mad at him and suggests that they wait a few more years before he starts school. Nemo, upset, slips away and touches the boat, only for a scuba diver to capture him and go away on the boat. Marlin desperately follows but quickly loses sight of it, but he runs into another fish named Dory who saw where the boat went, but unfortunately has short-term memory loss, leading to the pair to travel the ocean in search of clues as to where the boat went and to find Nemo. Meanwhile, Nemo is put in a fish tank in a dentist office full of fish from pet stores, as well as Gill, a fish who also came from the ocean and is eager to get out, but his plans always end up failing. However, with Nemo on board, he's come up with a new plan, and though it succeeds at first, it almost leads to Nemo's death, causing the plan to be abandoned, leaving them in a desperate situation as the dentist plans to give Nemo to his niece, who has a bad habit of shaking the bags the fish are in, killing them. Marlin and Dory continue their search, which includes encounters with sharks, jellyfish, an anglerfish, a school of moonfish, sea turtles, a whale, and seagulls, which causes word to spread all the way to Nemo and the fish tank via a friendly pelican named Nigel. This inspires Nemo to try Gill's plan again and succeeds this time. Because of a series of complications, however, the plan goes haywire and Nemo has to play dead, leading to Marlin and Dory showing up and thinking that Nemo is actually dead and returning to the ocean heartbroken. However, Nemo, with the help of Gill, is able to get back to the ocean through a pipe and meets Dory, who Marlin abandoned, and the two find him, leading to a happy reunion. The trio go back home, and Nemo starts school again, learning to appreciate his father's love, and Marlin learns to give Nemo some space and to trust that he will be safe. The movie is really split into two sections: Marlin's adventure across the ocean, and Nemo with the tank gang in the dentist office. Due to this, I will be discussing the movie in these two parts. The first thing I want to discuss is Marlin's adventure and the lesson that he learns. Because of his awful experience, he vows to protect Nemo no matter what, and understandably so. However, the problem arises when he doesn't allow Nemo to do anything for fear of losing him. In a bit of cruel irony, though, Marlin's overprotectiveness is the very thing that causes Nemo to be taken by the divers. Marlin's tendency to assume the worst is happening to Nemo leads to Marlin unknowingly not trust Nemo and his decision-making, which obviously upsets Nemo and causes him to want to prove his capability, even if he goes about it the wrong way. The interesting thing to me is that Marlin stresses so much about being a good parent that, in a way, it causes him to be too good of a parent. By not allowing Nemo to do anything, he is keeping him perfectly safe, but it doesn't allow for Nemo to make mistakes and learn lessons, as well as understand his capabilities or have any fun, as Dory points out later in the film. The adventure that expands over the course of the movie not only proves what a dedicated father Marlin is, but also allows him to think and learn the error of his ways. One of these important moments is when he meets the sea turtles, namely Crush and his son Squirt. Crush allows his son to do just about anything, and it allows for Squirt to make mistakes, to have fun, and to understand his limitations. Admittedly, Crush may be on the opposite extreme of parenting with his laid-back approach to it, but nonetheless he shows that by allowing kids to go off on their own from time to time in a controlled environment, that kids can learn things for themselves. Aside from his lesson for a moment, Marlin is also just a really fun character. He is really funny and his personality is unique and shines through in just about everything he does. He also pairs really well with Dory, and they bounce off each other really well. Speaking of Dory, let's talk about her a bit, because while the adventure helps Marlin learn his lessons, Dory is a large part of the reason why. Dory, having short-term memory loss, makes the perfect ally for Marlin. Her shaky answers, due to her unclear memory of the boat and other knowledge, forces Marlin to slow down and not immediately rescue Nemo, allowing time for his lesson to be learned. As well as Dory's optimistic attitude, probably best summarized by her motto of just keep swimming, helps Marlin to climb into his calmer attitude that he learns to adapt. On top of being a great contrast for Marlin, I also just find her to be a really funny character. Not only in her jokes, but sometimes just in her basic interactions with Marlin. She is a really hard character to hate, because she does truly want to help the best she can, and her abilities are useful, such as her reading skills, but she also frequently interferes with Marlin trying to get Nemo as quickly as possible, that you can't help but feel bad for Marlin, too, for being stuck in this difficult situation. To put a close on Marlin's part of the video, I'd like to discuss the adventure itself, and why it makes for such a compelling story that doesn't drag down the second act of the film. I think the two main things that makes the adventure work so well is the way the plot unfolds through each new interaction, and the world building. I'll discuss the interesting world building later, so for now I'm going to focus on the way the plot unfolds. If I were to name a common problem found in road trip/adventure movies, it would probably be that the second act can easily be filled with rather uninteresting shenanigans, or even if interesting, don't develop the plot further, and are rather there just to pad up the runtime. Finding Nemo, however, ensures that each encounter with a creature has a purpose. I won't go through every single one, as that would take a lot of time, but I'll just go through some of the more interesting ones. These sharks, on top of being hilarious, allow for Marlin and Dory to locate one of the divers' masks that has the address of the dentist office that Nemo is being held in, giving them a location. The sea turtles, as discussed, aid Marlin in learning his lesson. The whale that swallows them allows a chance for Marlin to practice extending his trust in a scary situation by allowing Dory to go through with her plan. The jellyfish also shows the audience how Marlin has come to care for Dory. Overall, these plots, on top of all of them just being really fun and well written, all serve a purpose, whether that is advancing Marlin's lesson, progressing the plot, or showing an advancement in character. Now let's go over Nemo and his lesson, because he too has something to learn. Now, when talking about this part of the film, there isn't really an adventure to speak of. The most important thing is really just the relationship between Nemo and Gill, the fish who is the leader of the fish tank. Gill serves as sort of an opposite to Marlin. Gill is very similar to Nemo in that he is also from the ocean, and that he has a damaged fin. Thus, he makes Nemo do things for himself, such as when Nemo gets stuck in a tube and Gill tells none of the other fish to help him, but instead directs Nemo on how to get out. When Nemo attempts to make an excuse out of his bad fin, Gill simply states, "Never stopped me," before revealing his damaged fin to him and the audience. Gill helps Nemo see his abilities and that he is capable. However, Gill is not a perfect character. In wanting his freedom so bad, he risks Nemo's life. When he realizes this, he abandons the plan and admits his mistake. Gill serves as a supportive force for Nemo, but I enjoy that he's not a flawless character and that he also makes mistakes. This plot is nice, but I personally prefer Marlin's adventure, and I think a part of the reason why is the side characters present in Nemo's plot. I suppose now is as good a time as any to discuss the Tank Gang, so let's get into it. These side characters, excluding Gill, aren't the best side characters ever. I was actually surprised to discover at the end of this rewatching of the film that I found the side characters in A Bug's Life to be better than the ones here. I think the main problem is that there just isn't enough time for them to shine. Most of them just have one thing that they do, and that's it. There isn't really any standout scene with any of them. As a refresher, the characters are Bloat the pufferfish, who constantly puffs up, Peach the starfish, who no one can understand when they're pressed up against the glass, Bubbles the yellow tang, who is obsessed with bubbles, Gurgle the royal gamma, who is scared of germs, Deb the striped damselfish, who believes her reflection is her sister named Flo, Jacquees the cleaner shrimp, who, as you can probably guess, cleans things. The problem is that they lack any scene where their personalities are able to bounce off each other. Honestly, the film could have worked with just about any of them gone. While I could say a similar thing about the side characters in A Bug's Life, I wouldn't want to get rid of any of them. For each, I can think of a fun character interaction they have with another, or a fun sequence they are a part of. The Tank Gang, while fun in their various designs, lack the time to develop unique personalities like Gill was able to. Speaking of the various designs, I'd like to wrap up our discussion by talking about the world building, namely the effort that went into ensuring the ocean was as realistic as possible. The animators did a ton of research, and it shows. The massive variety of fish and aquatic animals and plants give so much life into the story and allow for a really fun setting. Sometimes we visit the deeper depths of the ocean, sometimes trenches. It's really fun seeing all that they were able to put into a simple 100-minute movie. The world building allows for this film to be so expansive and supports the adventure a lot as well as making the audience learn something, and that's always a nice touch. I enjoy learning stuff in a fun way. Overall, I give Finding Nemo an 8 out of 10. It's a really fun movie all around. Not one of Pixar's most emotional films of the 2000s, but nonetheless a very fun one. The adventure, at least to me, is easily the best part of the film. Marlin and Dory's friendship is so fun, and the ocean environment is well utilized. Highly recommend this film. It's not a masterpiece, and its lessons are somewhat minimal, but it accomplishes the most important goal of a movie, to be entertaining. Finding Nemo is a great example of a movie that simply serves the goal of being a good time, and that is something I can always appreciate. The extra lessons and story are just the cherry on top. Well, that's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed, and feel free to share any opinions you had on the movie. A new episode releases each week, so stay tuned to see which film I cover next. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.